I'm Tessa Huff. I'm going to be making and decorating this cover cake. It's the pink lemonade cake with French macarons, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is make our French macarons. We're going to take our confectioner's sugar and almond flour and put them in the food processor and grind them down just slightly finer. So we're going to process the confectioner's sugar and almond flour together for about 60 seconds, just until it's very fine and uniform. And then we're going to sift it into a large bowl just to make sure we don't have any more lumps. And should you have lumps still, you can go ahead and process a little bit longer. In the book, I've given instructions on how to make macarons with both the French and Italian methods. Today, we're going to do the French meringue method. So we're going to get started by whipping up our egg whites. We're going to start at a low speed and then gradually increase the speed. At the same time, slowly pour in our sugar until stiff peaks form. So now you can see that all these little tiny bubbles have started to form and the egg whites are getting foamy. So we're going to start increasing the speed slowly while gradually pouring in the sugar at the same time. Now that the sugar has been added, we're going to continue mixing on high speed until the meringue is nice and thick, but not dry or clumpy. So this has been mixing for just a few minutes. You can see that it's nice and white, it's starting to thicken, but we still aren't quite there. It's not holding peaks yet. So we're going to keep going and we'll check it again in another minute. We're getting closer. It's holding about a soft peak now. We're going to keep mixing maybe another minute longer and add in our gel food coloring at that time as well. We're just going to make sure we don't overmix it because then the meringue is going to get all dry and clumpy and be really difficult to mix into our almond flour. During this last minute of mixing, I'm going to go ahead and add in my gel food coloring. This is totally optional, but we're going to be making pink lemonade macarons. Okay, so now our French meringue is done. It's nice and thick and glossy and stiff, but not too dry. So you want to make sure you don't overmix this. And we're going to add now our meringue mixture into our almond flour mixture. We're going to start with a little bit at a time. So I just like to use whatever's still on the beater and just add that to the bowl here. And we're just going to be folding the two ingredients together. I like to use the biggest mixing bowl I can find and a large rubber spatula. So just starting with a very small amount of the meringue mixture. As you can tell, we're using this really dry almond flour mixed with this light, airy meringue. It looks like it's going to be impossible to combine, but we're just going to keep folding until everything becomes a nice uniform batter. I'm going to add in about half of the remaining meringue from the bowl and keep folding. You want to do big folds by going all the way to the bottom of the bowl and flipping it over on itself, rotating the bowl as you go to make sure we get all of those dry bits from the bottom incorporated into the meringue. We want to knock out a little bit of that air that we whipped up. So what I like to do is go under and over and then smooth it against the side of the bowl with the rubber spatula. And it helps knock out a little bit of the air and then smooths out the batter in the same process. So this is definitely still too thick. That's not going to be able to pipe smoothly. All right, so it looks like it's coming together. We're almost there. It's still a bit too thick. It should ribbon off the spatula when you lift it up. It's not quite there yet. So if we pull our spatula through the middle, the batter should slowly run back together when it's done and not flood everywhere. And we're almost there. All right, we're definitely there now. The batter moves flowing slowly and it melts back into itself. So now we're gonna go ahead and fill our piping bag and pipe it onto our prepared baking sheet. All right, we're gonna fill our piping bag with our batter. It just has a plain round tip, and then we're gonna pipe it onto our baking sheet that I've lined with a silicone mat. You could also use parchment paper here. So I'm gonna fill the piping bag only about halfway so it doesn't spill out the top of the bag when I go to pipe it. I've actually twisted here to make sure that the batter doesn't fall out. So it'll untwist, and then we're gonna push out some of the air before we get started. So we're gonna hold our piping bag at a 90-degree angle, keeping it straight up and down, and we're gonna pipe small mounds of batter and then release. So keeping the bag straight up and down, you're going to release the pressure on the bag at the end, right here. Give it a little swirl to release and then lift up. If you'd like, you can create a template by drawing circles on a piece of parchment paper and slip that underneath the Silpat mat to make sure all of your macarons are the same size. Once they're piped, we're going to hit the bottom of the pan to knock out some of the air bubbles, and any small peaks that remained after piping should smooth out. And from here, we're gonna let the macaron batter rest until the top is no longer sticky, and then we will bake them. Our macaron shells baked for 12 to 14 minutes. You can find all my tips and tricks and troubleshooting for French macarons in the book. Now let's get on to filling them. I have my lemon cream filling, the same filling that went inside the cake. What we're gonna do is pipe a ring of lemon filling and then fill the center with strawberry jam to make pink lemonade macarons. So we have our strawberry cake here that's already been baked and cooled and trimmed, and we're gonna fill it with the lemon cream filling and frost with the ombre finish that's on the cover. So the first thing we're gonna do is pipe a buttercream dam around the outer ring of the cake with our plain Swiss meringue buttercream. It's just in a piping bag with a plain round tip. I'm just gonna pipe a ring all the way around the edges here. The buttercream dam ensures that the lemon cream filling won't seep out between the layers of cake. So we're just going to dollop it into the center and smooth it out with our offset spatula. So go ahead and add the second layer of cake. Again, these cakes have been cooled and trimmed so they're nice and flat on top. I'm going to repeat those steps. So again, with the buttercream dam, and then fill it with the lemon cream filling. All right, now put your final layer of cake on top. Press it down and make sure that everything is nice and even and straight. From there, we're going to use the Swiss meringue buttercream to do a crumb coat on the cake, which is basically a thin layer of frosting that's going to trap in all of those crumbs before we do the ombre finish on the outside. So again, this crumb coat is basically just a thin layer of icing that we're going to apply to the top and the sides of the cake using our offset spatula here. It doesn't have to be perfect, just looking for a nice even layer that's going to trap in all of those strawberry cake crumbs. After this, we're just gonna chill the cake for about 15 minutes before working on the final layer on the outside. Our crumb coat has been chilled in the refrigerator, so now we're gonna work on the ombre icing for the outside. I'm gonna start with the top of the cake, which I want to end up being white. So we're gonna go pink to peach to yellow to white. So we're gonna start at the top first by adding a big dollop of the plain Swiss meringue buttercream to the top of the cake. And we're going to take our large offset spatula and start to smooth it out and spin the turntable as we go so the top is nice and flat. You want to keep your offset spatula as flat on top of the cake as possible and keep it still and turn the turntable instead of moving the spatula around, and it will push the frosting out and flat on top of the cake. Some of the icing will get pushed over the edges, and that's actually a good thing, so we can use that later to attach the frosting to the side, and so it blends more with the yellow frosting that we're going to be piping onto the side of the cake. We're going to be piping rings of buttercream around the cake, and gradually the colors will begin to blend together to create that ombre effect. So we're going to start with the pink and start at the very bottom of the cake. I'm just going to hold the piping bag steady, apply some pressure, and spin the turntable around until we get all the way around the cake. It might break a little bit there. That's okay. We'll fill it in. So do one ring of pink. Now we have more pink icing left. I'm going to put that back into the bowl. And from there, I'm going to add in a little bit of the peach. So we have a color that's halfway between the pink and the peach. Just kind of stir that around. You don't need to change the bowls or anything, or even change the piping bag, because we want the colors to naturally blend anyway. So now we have our peachy pink color, and we're going to do the exact same thing again. Just piping rings around the cake. So we're just going to keep going around the cake, adding in more peach, and then eventually adding in more yellow and working our way up to light yellow to white. You can keep using the same piping bag just so the colors blend more naturally together. Now that we've piped the buttercream all around the edges of the cake, we're going to use our icing smoother to smooth out the edges. You can tell it's not totally perfect, but that's okay. That's what we're going to do next. And if you have any gaps in between the colors, just use an offset spatula and go ahead and fill it in with buttercream of the coordinating color. So now we're going to use our smoother here. We're going to gently place it directly to the side of the cake. We're going to keep this still and spin the cake to blend those colors together. So we're going to just keep the icing smoother in the same spot and turn the cake one full rotation. And then you can see it's starting to pull some of that excess icing off, and we can scrape that on our bowl to make sure we're starting with clean tools each time. And then we're just going to keep going around. We can stop, take a look, see what we need to fix, and just keep going until everything is nice and smooth. So again, we'll just do one full rotation here. Clean off our smoother and go again. So you can see as we go, it's starting to smooth out. Those colors are combining beautifully, but they also, we have a couple holes here and there, you can see. So we're just gonna go ahead and fill those back in. I'm gonna clean up the bottom here and then see where we're at. Let's go ahead and clean up this pink that's on the bottom here by getting the edge of our icing smoother and just gently placing it on the board and then just giving it a spin. Just like that. And now we'll just go around a couple more times to smooth out some of that extra frosting that we added. All right, let's take a look, see if there's any holes. Looking pretty good. I'm going to fill in a few more spots right here. Of course, you can use any colors you want here. We're doing pink and yellow, obviously, because it's the pink lemonade cake with strawberry and lemon, but you can use this technique on nearly any cake. You could even use it with chocolate frosting and do like a dark chocolate to white. situation. I just really like this technique because it's very adaptable to any design that you're working with. So we have that smooth transition of color between pink to yellow to white. I'm going to clean off the bottom one more time. Now that our sides are completely smooth and we have a great transition of color from pink to yellow to white, so let's finish off the cake by working on the top of the cake. I know we already smoothed it out in the first step, but as we push the icing around the cake, it kind of crept up the sides right here, so now we have this lip. So we're going to clean that off by gently taking our offset spatula and pulling that towards the center of the cake. Cleaning it off in between each stroke. Our pink lemonade cake is now nicely frosted with that ombre buttercream finish. Now it's ready for the macarons on top. I'm finishing up the cake with our French macarons. I really love this cake design because not only did we get to learn all about macarons, I got to fill and frost the cake with you and decorate it with one of my favorite buttercream finishes.